But anyhow, this one is from My Fair Lady, and it's called On the Street Where You Live. Street before, and the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. Are there lilac trees in the heart of town? Does enchantment pour out of every door? No, it's just on the street where you live. And oh, the towering feeling just to know somehow you are near. Feeling. Any second you may suddenly appear. People stop and stare. They don't bother me. There's nowhere else on earth that I would rather be. Let the time go by. Stop and stare. They don't bother me. There's nowhere else on earth that I would rather be. Let the time go by. I don't care if I can be here on the street where you live. Let the time go by. I don't care if I can be here on the street where you live. Yeah, that's I'm not Eddie Fisher by any stretch of the imagination, but he got the big hit out of that one. So I started out doing these songs from the Great American Songbook, and ended up deciding that there's a lot of other songs I like too by artists that are my contemporaries. I've been toying with. I brought a Bob Dylan song out about a couple of weeks ago, and I've been toying with bringing out a Neil Young song, and I decided I would. So this one's called "Only Love Can Break Your Heart."
Okay. Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Tony Cicero. These are my thoughts. This is my perspective on, actually, he's a favorite composer, but I got to start by talking about one of the films that he wrote some songs for. And he's not a favorite composer, but because of this film and the history with me, when I was about 12, 13 years old, 1974, I think, 75, maybe right around in there, a film came out called Phantom of the Paradise. This was like kind of a cult film. It was a take on the story of Faust, which I had read in junior high school, and my junior high school English language or literary arts teacher had requested that I read this book. She felt that for some reason that I would be really into this story, as I was kind of intrigued by the darker side of things, and she knew that I loved horror films and stuff at that age. And she was really a great teacher. Her name was Mrs. Lee. And Mrs. Lee suggested that I read Faust, so I read it and was completely blown away by the story. I believe it was Goethe that wrote Faust, and the story is about an aging man who makes a deal with the devil to have his youth back for a woman that he loves, who's a very young woman. But in the midst of that, there's also a struggle that he's having with trying to help the people of this village that he lives in, and it's as though the enemy wants to use him in this way or something to take over the village and take over the lives of all these people and kind of lure him away from his true purpose to offer the love of this woman, and he can have his youth back. There was a great film version done of this, I think in early 19-teens, like 1919, something like that. They've been showing it on Netflix over the last 6 months, might be gone now, but okay, so this movie comes out, Phantom of the Paradise. I didn't realize it at the time when I went to see this film that that it was based on the story of Faust, but a modern day version of this with a rock opera built into it, and that the great Paul Williams had written the soundtrack for this film, and all the wonderful songs that are in this movie, and that it's a powerful love story. It's like Phantom of the Opera mixed with Faust in a modern day setting, and this is 74, so modern day for then. I believe Jessica Harper plays the lead in that, and I was completely enamored with her. And recently I found out it was the film. You can get it, you can download it, and it's kind of fitting for the Halloween season, I guess, to watch this. And then I found out a little more just recently about Paul Williams, that he actually wrote The Way We Were, and which is just an amazing song. I mean, it's incredible. And of course, his biggest hit, probably, Just an Old-Fashioned Love Song.
Right. He also wrote Everybody's Talking.
Everybody's Talking. Perfect.
And I'm talking.
That was a beautiful segue, Gary. And also wrote You and Me Against the World, and that's another just amazing classic. Then, so for some reason, as we're in this season approaching Halloween, about a week away now, I just started thinking about that movie, and gonna watch it. We downloaded it, and we're gonna check that out again, see if it's any different than I remember it. That was one of those films, I believe that it went right to the Friday night midnight showings. We had midnight matinees that we went to when I was a teenager, and all of our friends would get together and go see Rocky Horror Picture Show, Phantom of the Paradise, Song Remains the Same, the Led Zeppelin movie, Tommy, the Who movie, and this later Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton, and just incredible stuff, all these great films. But yeah, just thinking about the great Paul Williams. I'm not sure if he's still with us anymore, but an amazing songwriter, and that's about all I got on that, and I didn't even time myself, so my apologies.
He is still around.
I thought so. Yeah. And so that's it for me.
Thank you. Come on, Sheila.
Why do I?
I have an idea.
All right.
Yay.
Awesome.
So I have 3 or 4 minutes, or
Yeah,
Just talk.
Yes.
okay.
yeah, plus or minus, it's good.
Yeah.
We're good. It's good, yeah.
I enjoy going to a website called digg.com.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it has little thumbnails of what's happening, what people are looking at on the internet. What's getting the most hits. So you're going to get all an eclectic, who knows what you're going to see, and you don't have to read them all, of course, because they're just like this, and a little description. Go, oh, I think I'll read that one. Well, I read one yesterday, I think, or the day before, and it was the reporting about a woman who, for 30 years, has been doing some kind of research, and I'm going to be kind of very vague, and this is just my impression of things, not exactly what is going on, but 30 years ago, I think she's like a behavioral biologist or something, and she just came out with a book, I believe, on aging. And 30 years ago, when she first started doing this kind of research, she took 5 old people, I don't know how old they were, let's say over 70 or something, maybe over 80, and they were all acting old, appeared like they were old. And she put them in, for 5 days, she put them in an environment where everything was referenced to like 40 years before then or 50 years before then when they were younger. So even the music that they were listening to for 5 days was when they were young. And everything, I'm guessing the the furniture and everything was just referenced. And they didn't leave for 5 days. They were just in this space. And at the end of 5 days, they were behaving differently, and they were more aware, they were more with it, and their physical abilities were improved, and it was just a whole different scene. And now fast forward to now, and she has I think a book, and and it's much expanded, but it's really interesting. So when what's his name? Gary was playing these songs, that reminded me of that article, and I was thinking, well, okay, maybe I want to start listening more to the stuff I listened to when I was younger, and just really put myself in that frame, because what if aging really is just, a frame of mind? I mean, who said that it has to be a certain way? And that's all I have.
That's really.
Great insights, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not that sad a song, but it definitely takes you someplace. So it's called I'll Be Seeing You. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well, and I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, and everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. Alrighty.
I'm Sheila. It's been one heck of a week for me. And so I'm just going to talk about my week. My mother fell and broke her hip a week ago. So, it's been emotional, it's been tiring, it's been informative. She's doing fine. She had surgery. They put a couple pins in her, right in where the ball is on her femur, in her hip. And she's very black and blue and bruised, and she's got like a little Frankenstein mark down the side of her leg. She has staples in it. And she also has some other various things that, are the matter with her that I'm not really going to go into, but it's been an experience dealing with my mother when she's sick, because she's spent, she's 83 years old. She has spent her whole life taking care of all of us when we were sick. Last year was her kidneys, this year it's her leg. And so we're all doing the best we can to deal with it, but it's really hard emotionally. I can't treat her like any of my other clients that I've taken care of that were her same age, because she's my mom and they weren't. And in some aspects I do have to treat her like that when I have to give her physical therapy or do the things that I need to do for personal hygiene or whatever. I have to disassociate away from the fact that she's my mom. And she might argue with me. And she might tell me no. And I still have to stand firm and say, you know, this is the way it's going to be. Sorry, I love you, but you still have to do your therapy. You still have to get clean. You still have to get out of bed. And it's been really hard, and it's especially hard on my brothers and sisters who see me be confrontational with my mother. They have their position, which is to placate her and try to get her to see things in a certain light. And Mom and I just butt heads. We are so much alike, we're just going to butt heads. And I know that she loves me, and she knows that I love her. But I told them, I said, if there's somebody that's got to be the bad guy, that she's got to be mad at, that'd be me. I'm used to it. I can get over it. I can walk out the door. I don't live here. I don't live with my mother anymore. But my sister does live with my mother, and she has to deal with it every day. And I said, so let her be mad at me, not you. That's how I left yesterday, with her screaming at me. Which was okay. I didn't carry it out the door. I wasn't hurt by it. Which was such an epiphany for me. Because when I was living with her and she would treat me that way, it was like I took it personal. But it's not. It's not personal. It's more her mental state that's affecting that. And so I just have to, and now it's been confirmed and I realize it, and so it's like, okay, I can deal with this now. I'm not taking it personal. I can deal with it. So that's been a heck of a week. But I came home last night, slept the sleep of the dead, didn't even move, I don't think. I laid down, I closed my eyes, and I was in the same position when I woke up in the morning. So that's been my week. And I'll go on to some other things when we have dialogue. Okay, thank you.
Yay. Sheila.
Paperback writer.
Thank you, John.
Yes, that is my. I carry these tunes around in my head. That was one that I was carrying around. I had to get it out. Thank you guys for placating me with allowing me to be able to.
You can be derivative.
Exhume the tune. So, on the theme that we had started earlier, which was talking about the actual movies or the songs from movies that we had seen. There we go. There's a lot, as there are lots of songs that I've heard and lots of movies that I've seen, as with all of us, I'm sure. But I have in mind, though I have in mind not one, many come to mind, so I'll just go to the first one that registers. So the first one that registers, oh, Elvis, there we go. Now, movies and songs, so, you know, you guys remember, well, I'm a girl watcher, watching girls go by, my. It's, here comes one now. You know, so these are all meaningful songs that I go back to, and then Elvis, it was of course the quintessential musical expressionist in our childhood. When there was him, he was, you know, romancing the you know, the girl named Amy or something, always in one movie or another, or he was, you know, Deke, the character in another movie. But that was music and film combined, and he did like video logs. It was like, they were like videos of different Elvis videos, they could be called, in 1959, 1961. Wonderful stuff. But also, I will now go to and expand some and go to music, just songs. But so the Girl Watcher, I guess I was in 19. Oh gosh, there was a TV show. There was a TV show, and they had these puppets on the TV show. It was like Big Chuck and Houlihan was a TV show, and they had this. It was a comedy show that was 3 channels, right? Then one channel there was nothing else to watch, and the Big Chuck and Houlihan show or whatever it was, and they would have these puppets that would be doing the the mouthing and that was the entertainment. That was the best we could do in 1960 something, I guess. But it was different, and so I watched it. It was fun to see the puppets mouthing the hand. They were hand puppets with the background. They'd put the hand, my, funny, silly stuff. Music again, commercials. That was let Hertz put you in the driver's seat today. It was all music. So these are when I access my memory banks and I think of right now when I think of music, there's music that's everywhere. And there was a moment I remember now in the basement, 1973. Sarah Smile, Daryl Hall, and John Oates. When it came out, it was dramatic. It was one of those dramatic moments and I remember I connected with like eternity or something when I heard. I was riveted, and sitting in that's another story. But with my girlfriend at the time, but Sarah Smile, and it was a very good moment, very good power. It was a powerful tune, like the Hoagie Carmichael type of, and Daryl Hall and I guess John Oates. They pulled that out of the ether and created that. That was really well done. And other songs similar to that would be, meaningful songs. Long and Winding Road. Then I was 12 or 13. The Beatles had done that, and my father actually got he got the 45, and it had something on the other side. I'll think of it in a minute, but in the long and winding road, and it was another riveting moment of auditory entertainment that I appreciated. But it created a moment that I remembered. If I was to take in my mind a snapshot of that moment in time, that would be the moment, or that would be a moment where there would be the music, what I was doing, everything. It's like it froze. A picture of me walking over towards the stereo. You guys remember the stereo? Yeah, with the lift up, the stereo, and putting on. I remember that whole probably number of seconds or so when I first heard that, and that was interesting because my father had bought that, had purchased that. He liked that song. He didn't buy a lot of songs. Anyway, he didn't buy a lot of records, but he bought that one, and I was like, wow, that's really good. And he bought that. I was impressed. He bought the Beatles. And that's it. I can keep going. When me, music, art, I go forever. So I'll stop there, and I will say thank you.
All right.
Okay, and another artist that I really love, one of my faves actually, is Ray Charles. And I have not pulled any Ray Charles songs out, and tonight seems to be the night to be bringing those kind of things up. So this is another one. This is from my circle of influence. I don't think my dad really, I think he was more into Red Fox than Ray Charles, but this one's called Lucky Old Son. In the morning, that lucky old sun got nothing to do but roll around heaven all day. Lord above, can't you hear me crying? The tears, they fall from my eyes. Send down that cloud with a silver lining. Take me to paradise. Show me that river. Lead me across. Take all my troubles away. With that lucky old sun, and nothing to do but roll around heaven all day. Lord above, can't you hear me calling? The tears, they fall from my eyes. Send down that cloud with a silver lining. Take me to paradise. Show me that river. Lead me across. Take all my troubles away. But that lucky old sun got nothing to do but roll around heaven all day. I'd roll around heaven all day.
Who wrote that?
That's a Ray Charles song.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Hoagie Carmichael wrote it.
Hoagie Carmichael.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Ray is the
Ray recorded that somewhere in the 50s, that one, or was that a 60s?
probably 60s. Yeah.
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 My name's Gary, and these are my thoughts and my perspective on. I was on Facebook, and this friend of mine posted a picture of his young kids and his sister's young boy. They're probably ages 8 to 12 or 13, and they're in the garage, and they've got their guitars and their drums, and the picture says the boys are starting a band. And man, that just took me back to the basement in my first band, and I wrote a comment, something like, tell them not to ever forget this moment because they'll be chasing it for the rest of their lives. And I feel that it was like any kind of burst of something new. The initial burst is like the best, you know. And well, anyhow, I'll go back to my first band. There was bass, 2 guitars, and my brother played drums. My parents had gone. That's a whole other story. I had tried to build myself an electric guitar, and I spent hours in the basement on it. And when I started to string it, the whole thing just kind of bowed like a bow. And I just let out a yelp, and my dad came running down and took me to the music store and bought me a guitar, you know, but he just wanted to, I think that was in his mind the whole time, but he wanted to see how far I was going to take this thing. So anyhow, I got my guitar and I learned how to play a little bit. So we decided we're going to have a band. We're going to have a band. So we got one amplifier with probably an 8-inch speaker, and it had 3 inputs. So the bass and both guitars plugged into this one amplifier, and we had to keep our foot on it so it wouldn't creep across the floor when we started to play. And all we knew were Venture songs, you know, da 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 da, you know, da 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 da. Anyhow, we had so much fun, you know. It was exhilarating. Like I'll never forget that moment, you know. It was just, and I was serious. I said, you know, tell them to just enjoy this, you know, and take it all in, and don't ever forget that moment. I don't know if you can relate to that too, but I'm sure you can. And you know, any kind of an endeavor like that first burst of joy is just something you keep on chasing that, you know. And of course you perfect your craft, and you perfect your art, and you work at it and develop it. But that initial joy, it just killed me. And when I saw that picture, I could just picture, there must be a photo somewhere of us with one guy with his foot on this amp and 2 other guys. So it was a great moment. And you know, sometimes that's all that Facebook does for me, is spark some kind of a thought, you know, that in my own self. So yeah, that's what I got to say.
Good one.
All right, let's do a little Bing Crosby, and it's Swinging on a Star. Well, he still gets caught, but what you wish. You may grow up to be a fish and on in a zoo. Every day you meet quite a few. So you see, it's all up to you. You could be better than you are. You could be swinging on a star. You could be swinging on a star.
Well. All right.
There we go. So now we can begin our wonderful, from the monologues, we can pick up with the dialogues.
Okay, I wanted to comment on what you said about the putting an older person into an atmosphere from when they were younger.
Yeah.
I found that I take care of a lot of senior citizens, and my mother not accepted. I had this one lady that we spent the whole time watching nothing but Turner Movie Channel.
Right.
She had been answering service lady in Hollywood during that time of the big studios when all of these people were acting and making these movies. And so I always had wonderful stories coming from her. I loved her.
That's precious.
But what we've been pretty much doing that with my mom these days since she's been home, and I don't know what cable company or whatever they have over there or how they're getting their cable, but they have these weird channels like for 5.2 and 5.6 and all that stuff, and they're like old TV shows from the 50s and 60s and some 70s, but mostly black and white stuff. And it was been so enjoyable watching TV with her because it was the same exact shows that we watched when I was young.
Oh, cool.
And so
What's
it
her
kept her in
favorite?
a really good mood. And she was in such a great mood.
What's her favorite?
I would say she loves Bewitched.
Oh, great.
And she likes,
Yes, Sam.
what other ones? The old westerns, like we were watching Roy Rogers and Gene Autry. A lot of the old western movies. She really likes those. And I go, Mom, I've been there. She goes, what? And I said, oh, that's Simi Valley. You know where those rocks are?
Right. All the westerns have Vasquez
Simi Valley.
rocks.
And
Vasquez rocks. Okay.
yeah, so it's been really interesting to see the change in her. How she pays more attention to the old movies and old television shows that are on, and she'll stay awake for those. But then when something newer comes on, she just kind of goes in dreamsland, which is okay too. But she's not as astute. She doesn't speak as much. So
Okay.
that was pretty interesting.
Got it. I think I've got something that I'm thinking that is appropriate, that we live in our mind. We live in our mind. If we think that we're in Vietnam or something, then we're in Vietnam. If that's our perception. However, if we think that we're in a wonderful space also, then that's our perception too. We create our own reality to a certain extent. But in terms of, I would like to think that we can create a positive, even though the old experiences that I had, reliving the 60s and, some wonderful tunes that I grew up listening to, if I can attach, and this is my theory that I just formed, if I can attach myself to new experiences the same way, there was a vitality and a sense of awe and wonder and an association that I created when I watched those, Barnabas Collins and Dark Shadows. What do you, and it was thrilling. It was thrilling to watch it. If I can do the same thing with whatever the goofy shows that are on now, and it doesn't matter what it is, because it's now, I get to still have that, potentially that liveliness. You know what I mean, Sharon? Is that potentially?
I think that was the common thread that kind of ran through each of the monologues that we did tonight, was that sort of spark of creativity and excitement,
Okay.
and that the exuberance, if you will, of our youth and the music and TV shows. There's a common thread here, and it just kind of, as you were speaking what you just said, it sort of began to clarify itself. And something that you said, Sharon, also I was thinking about, Gary reminded me earlier, I did a little while back, I did an audition to perform with Booker T, from Booker T and the MGs. And he's 75 now. And up until the moment that he actually was able to start playing, and we played 4 songs together, which was wonderful, and I won't go into it any further than that. But what really blew my mind was that before he started to play, there was a lot of moments of confusion for him, and he was not liking the keyboard that they had brought in and set up for him. There were problems with it, and and he had his wife and his daughter with him, and they sort of they look after him, they tend to his needs, and you can tell that he needs that because he drifts off and he's kind of in another place. But when we started to play the song, suddenly I looked over at him, and it was like 20, 30 years just went away, and he was completely in the moment and on fire, and just, and just his eyes lit up, and I looked at him, and he looked back at me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. I'm playing with it's on, and he's on, and it's like we're this. It's like he's 20 and I'm 22. It was just really, and that made me think of that what you said earlier, because. Just the transformation that can happen if we're doing that thing that connects us to those good feelings we had in our younger years or whatever. We keep doing that. Just keep doing it. Don't let go of it. And you stay young forever, regardless of your physical body wearing out or whatever happens to you. Or maybe you get hit by a bus. Who knows? But we only have limited time here, no matter what. So I love that thought. That was good.
We have to take care of ourselves, but if we keep pushing the way that we experience things, if we hold on to the way we experience things, what is it? From the view, what is it, like from the eyes of a child, or there's probably some song or something, with a child's heart, something like that. And with a child's heart, something. If we continually see the world that way, it's always our fresh moment when we become not jaded, but when we become.
We still have the innocence.
Yeah, and we get to choose our. I've said this before. We have a capacity to choose innocence, or to choose a wily view of life. We can actually identify with which is what I always say. I'm 12. I'm still 12. It's everything is just like, well, what's that? So
I wish.
And not given to the experiences that I've had, because I can choose that also, and I do whenever I need to, because it's appropriate. But when I don't need to, I'm 12.
Right.
It's like it's on. I'm going back and kick back, and I'm having fun. What's next? Kind of thing.
Yeah. That 12-year-old exuberance.
That's what's so endearing about you.
You're very kind. You're very kind. Yes. The innocenti, I call it the innocenti, in Italiano.
Man, something you said about having to hold the amp.
There we go.
Similarly, like my first rock band experience, like I had to put weights inside my bass drum because they hadn't figured out quite how to do the bass drum spurs to keep the bass drum from moving away. And of course, the music, we're playing pretty hard rock, and I'm back there kicking away, trying to, sound as good as these guys I'm playing with, and then trying to get the volume level. They're cranking their amps up, and my bass drum's creeping away, and I'm like putting weights in there, and then eventually figuring out, okay, I'll put a block, and I'm going to anchor it into the floor in my dad's garage, and that bass drum's going to butt up against that, because and that's what we ended up doing.
Ropes.
Actually,
You can use ropes.
Ropes, tying everything. Richie Vanderwyck still does that. I've seen him do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. The bungee cords he has or something to hold the whole drum kit together so it doesn't slide away. It's one of those. It was a logistical problem that existed for a while until the hardware got better. Didn't seem to affect Buddy Rich ever though.
Yeah.
Which is the point. The creativity was in play in our youth. It wasn't like
So you get around the obstacles.
You get around the obstacle. It's not a problem. It's something that we're going to solve. I'm going to solve it. What's this? I'm going to solve it. And we keep solving it. That's the perspective of youth, I guess. we can say it potentially an eternal perspective that we can hold on to.
Yeah.
We don't have to give that away. We can keep that.
Hey, let's make a movie. Oh, we don't have the props. Let's
No
make a
problem. Yeah.
No.
That might,
Let's put on a show in the
rake over
barn.
there looks like it could make it into something.
Oh God. Yeah.
We did
little,
that in our garage.
little rascal style.
Perfect.
I mean,
Oh, my
yeah. So
favorite.
that was the.
Yeah.
I still go back to that one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we had
Florida
curtain and everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of shift gears now a little
Okay.
because I wanted to talk to Sheila for a minute about just I think how interesting it is that although you and your mom are the ones that you're the ones that butt heads, that you're also the one that gets to be the caregiver, and so there's a real deep love and beauty in that just moved me when you shared that with me because. The other siblings, maybe they get along better with mom in an outward way, but in the deeper sense, the real deep, meaningful sense, you're the only one that can because you are like her.
Love my mother.
I know you
and I
do.
respect my mother. And I was a very sick child, and she left her other babies with other relatives to stay with me in the hospital. We moved from Illinois to Minnesota. So there would be other people to watch out for my little sisters so she could stay with me in the hospital when I was sick. I mean, we moved from Illinois to Minnesota just so she could stay in the hospital with me when I was sick.
Super mom.
Amazing. And so now
So
this is
I
a
love
chance
and
for
I
you to
honor
give
her
that
and I
back.
respect her,
Yeah.
and I know how much it took for her to do those things.
Sure.
And I would never want to hurt my mother,
Of course not.
but she's just going to argue with me because that's who she is and we always have.
And she knows that you're the one to
I
argue
moved
with.
out when I was 18 years old, almost 19 years old, and 2 weeks later they said, "Why did you move?" And I said, "Duh, you kicked me out for fighting with my mother. And besides, I graduated from high school, it's about time I go." But, it was right after my sister was born, and my mother was full of hormones, she just had a baby. I was 19, it was time to go. And I never moved back until just a couple years ago. When,
Well
for
done.
reasons beyond my control,
Well, we're so
I
glad that
needed
you
a
did
roof over
move
my
back.
head. Actually, I
Because
needed the running water.
the
I had a
two of you
roof.
being together and getting to know you, and glad that you're here.
And I'm so glad I came to Ventura and, saw this guy and
Oh boy.
yeah.
Oh, hey,
Sarah smiled all over again.
do you
Sarah
remember the
Smart.
name of your first band? What was the name of it? What would you guys call it?
The Time. T-Y-M-E.
Nice. And doing Ventures tunes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
The Time.
Adventures tunes, man. I remember
You know what? Those aren't
That's
easy
what our
songs to
neighborhood band
play,
played.
actually.
Yeah.
Hookie's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
so
well-
that's cool that you guys were doing that stuff.
Some-
That was the music of the time, anyway.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another song. You guys, I don't know if you remember, Sharon. It was called Ventura Highway.
Oh, how could we not?
By the Eagles?
No, by
No.
a band called America.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Actually, just played with Jimmy Caleri the other night, Wednesday night at Bombay. I
That's the guy.
Drummed
Yeah.
for him. He was our guest host. He was a member of America and toured with
That's
them
the
for a
guy.
little while. And, I think he was later on, maybe after they had already done those records and had the hits. And but he was the touring keyboardist with them.
Sax, too.
Huh?
In sax also.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, so we had him as our guest the other night at Bombay, and he. Hey, that sounds cool.
All right, I'll do my Funny Valentine then. How's that? And my funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable. Yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak? When you open it to speak, are you smart? Please don't change your hair for me. Not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine. Stay. And every day will be Valentine's Day. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak? When you open it to speak, are you smart? Please don't change your hair for me. Not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine. Please stay. And each day will be Valentine's. Each day will be Valentine's. Each day will be Valentine's Day. Well, alrighty.